Leon, you ever got punched in the face?
What?
PewDiePie is a better software developer than you, and I'm not even kidding. He's so rich, he's just doing side quests at this point.
I feel like PewDiePie is living the engineering dream.
It ended up costing him around $20,000 to do everything.
When you delete something, you didn't actually delete it. With LLMs, you're bearing your soul.
And you're over here taking your time and letting all these people lap you. You're letting people that can't do the job as well as you succeed you. If I said, I need you to get 10 conversations in 7 days, and if you do so, I'll give you $20,000, would you be able to get the 20 grand? Oh my God.
You're letting some other anonymous anime profile character person dictate the next 5 years of your life?
PewDiePie is a better software developer than you, and I'm not even kidding. For the vast majority of the people listening to this, PewDiePie is actually better than you because not only did he build something instead of keeping it an idea, he shipped the thing. I find this one to be pretty interesting.
I'm here for it.
So, to give some context into this, PewDiePie, who, I'll be honest, I'm aware of him. I've seen his stuff. I know he was like a gamer in the past. He's definitely like one of the largest people on the YouTube platform itself, but not necessarily someone that I keep up with all the time. And literally this morning, I see a clip from one of his videos, and it is about AI and how he's created this application. And I was like, I need to figure out what's going on here, especially from a development perspective, because he's saying development terms. I'm like, whoa, where did this come from out of nowhere? Like, I knew he was on the business side of things. I knew he was into gaming and entertainment, but coding and software development was not something that was really on my radar of things that he was known for.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I feel like PewDiePie is living the engineering dream. It's someone who's wealthy beyond wealthy because of all their past YouTube run, has bought land in Japan, has been installing Linux on super PCs that they've been building, doing hardware hacking, and now actual applications, and then sharing it, building in public for the world to see. And so I think this is it's a completely different arc I never thought I'd see on YouTube, but it's been fun to see them kind of go on this wave for sure.
Heck yeah. I don't know any of that. I didn't even know that he lived in Japan now. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's kind of blown my mind seeing how, I guess, his circle has now kind of like fallen into my radar of things that he's involved with. But the thing that I found so cool about this is, as I was doing my very limited research this morning before we jumped on this podcast. By the way, if y'all don't know, like we jump on this on Sunday mornings at like 9 a.m. and it's like if it's 9 a.m. for me, it's 7 a.m. for Leon. So very early for us to do this research and kind of jump on this. But I loved everything that I was seeing. I loved the way he was approaching certain problems, like big problems. Number one being, what does privacy look like for someone these days? And how much did it actually cost him to keep things private? Yeah. He also ran into the situation of utilizing tools that he probably had never had been introduced to before, like Docker. But a lot of AI knowledge building and solutioning occurred in this to get to a final product. So I'll jump into that in a second. But before we jump into all this, I almost forgot. What's going on, everyone? We are back with another one. For those of y'all that may not necessarily know who we are, I've been asked to bring this back again. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Danny Thompson. I am the Director of Technology at This.Labs, and I am the community organizer, builder of the Commit Your Code conference and something new being launched, Commit Your Talk, which we'll have to talk about in a second. I'm working on something new. Building in public, but working on something new that maybe I can explain in a second.
And I'm Leon Noel, one of your co-hosts and Managing Director of Engineering for a wonderful nonprofit called Resilient Coders and community member at 100 Devs. And tell us about Commit Your Talk.
Commit Your Talk. I had this idea for a little while, and then there was a conversation that occurred in my Discord. If you're not in my Discord, join it. Go to dthompsondev.com. You get the links to all my stuff there. But my Discord is called Commit Your Code, same as the name of the conference. And I started realizing that there are a lot of software developers that maybe they don't necessarily know how to have conversations in a meaningful way. Or the bigger thing is when they land jobs at all levels, this is not a junior thing. This is like across the board. They get really nervous about advocating for themselves or discussing things in a team setting. So they'll often stay quiet, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, what if we came up with a curriculum-based approach that is completely open source, free, all that good stuff. And in our Discord, we'll hold like a weekly call. And the idea is people can come in there and actually talk with real people, being given like impromptu scenarios that they can't necessarily prepare, but it lets them start working on how they communicate it, get real-time feedback, give them actionable things that they can work on, and keep giving them that weekly practice over and over until they finally get to the point where they're more confident in talking, but also creating curriculum to where maybe they want to finally get to the point where they give a presentation at work and it's actually meaningful and impressive and they're proud of it. Or the other side of it, what if they wanted to give a talk at a meetup or a conference? What does that even look like for them? I'm not necessarily saying that if you take this, you're going to be a world-class speaker, but I do believe you're going to be in a way more confident position than where you are now. Plus, open sourcing it, because the ultimate idea is if any Discord group or meetup group wants to end up utilizing it, they can just kind of leverage it for themselves and not have to do a big lift in order to do so. We're going to have like we kind of already have in the MVP stage where you sign in for your own account and then you can keep track of like the lessons that you've attended, the talks that you've attended, parts of the pathway that you've kind of finished. So that way you can keep your own track record of like, we've covered this is what this looks like, and a place where you can take notes to be like, okay, in these talking sessions, this is what I did well. This is where I suffered. This is what I need to work on. And then over time, be able to kind of like reference that to say, okay, I noticed I really struggled with certain prompts. Like, tell me about a bug that really held you back right now. Or one of the scenarios that we built in is it is a stand-up meeting where everyone has a good stand-up update besides you. And so now it's like, how do you handle that? Especially when you don't have something that's very favorable. So all open source. So if you want to contribute to it, you can. But of course, if you just want to come for the talks, you can as well.
I love that. When are you running the weekly session so far?
More than likely, the actual first call is going to be tomorrow, which obviously will be way before this episode comes out. But hopefully that gives us a little time to pad it out in case we get new people in the Discord that are wanting to attend. But I think as of right now, we have like 60 signed up for tomorrow. So, awesome. And the idea is we'll do basic intros. And then, of course, after the intros, we will have like a little lesson for like 10 minutes to kind of give a baseline. And then after that, the idea is breakout sessions of 4 people in a room. So that way they can all work on their thing within their time period and make it like meaningful, intimate, and the actual like safe place to get feedback.
Yeah, because I've recommended folks to things like Toastmasters in the past where you can practice like your public speaking and things like that. But having a more developer focused space is really, I think, really advantageous. We run something called Banky Brunch, the community does on our Discord every single day, where folks come and practice their behavioral questions. And the growth we've seen folks go from like fearful to even talk about a question to being confident enough to go through interviews is kind of wild. And so having like a dedicated space for this and the prompts that people can follow, I think is gonna be really huge. I think a lot of people it's like the missing piece for a lot of folks to start doing well in their job search. Or even just better in their career in general.
Yeah, it's you're seeing it basically the way that I saw it, and I'm familiar with the Toastmasters and things like that, which I went to one, and it didn't really do anything for me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I do know of some people that have gone through it for like years, and like they swear by it. So kudos to them. For me, the way that I see it is, especially if like you're in the field of tech, I think this really helps. Of course, it's also going to help from like, maybe you're going to end up making friends in the process too. You got 4 people in a room and you're seeing each other on a weekly basis. Highly possible that you could become buddies or something like that. Like I would imagine. I don't say that's going to be like a typical result, but I can't see how so many people working on the same thing, interested in the same thing, and showing up to the same thing don't find mutual interest to some level to kind of converse. But the next stage of it that I honestly see is going to be back to the show in a second, but first, a word from our sponsors. Financial literacy is important, especially if you are in a position where you are changing careers and income brackets. More income can create larger financial issues if you don't budget correctly. So this episode is sponsored by Lucas Casares, certified financial planner and founder of Level Up Financial Planning, where he specializes in serving early and mid-career tech professionals to help you take your financial confidence to the next level.
Danny and I have helped thousands of people level up in tech, often going from 0 to 6-figure careers. And we've seen all kinds of mistakes. Level Up Financial Planning helps you gain clarity on all of your finances. This includes prioritizing manager-employer stock, retirement planning, tax planning and preparation, college planning. And as a special deal for our listeners, you get a complimentary meeting with Lucas. So please visit levelupfinancialplanning.com to find out more.
He's been a great supporter of the show, and to be honest, a lot of people have already checked him out. I highly recommend checking him out. Now back to the show. Ownership and growth of said items, right? So it could be the potential of speaking better in scenarios where you're going to network at a meetup or something, but even the way that you converse in Discord just in general, I can only see evolving because of that. And so I think there's a lot of growth for the software developer community there. And the best part, it's free, right? Like we're not charging for it. I think it's something that's really, really needed for a lot of people.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right, back to how PewDiePie's out shipping us. Yeah.
I was going to say, I am like hooked on this to where PewDiePie is not just building stuff, but he ships some stuff, and I'm loving it. For the vast majority of folks, they're like, I don't know what to build. This man built something that's already been built, but it's his version of what he built. They always say, I don't know what to build, to talk about. What can I make? He built his own chat agent that he can talk with back and forth. And it all started from his interest of privacy, where he started realizing, and when you go to his YouTube channel and you see like the video titles, you can see, I think it was like about 6-7 months ago, he mentioned privacy concerns with like big tech having access to everything, which is, he even says is ironic and funny because his whole platform was built on big tech. And here he is, he's like, well, how do I start keeping my stuff private or off of, big tech's grasp of everything that I have? And he started realizing they're kind of getting all of his stuff no matter what he does. And this really started with him wanting to have conversations with his chat agents where he kept the data. And so he starts building it, and he realizes something that's very interesting. And if you're not familiar with this, we'll give you the same tip as well. Just because you delete a chat from the UI does not necessarily mean the data isn't saved. And so you must go into your settings on like ChatGPT, Gemini, etc., to delete the data and the memory. Otherwise, it still retains it.
And this is across everything. One of my favorite things to talk about is when I'm explaining how memory works to non-developers is if you buy like a camera off of Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace, and there's an SD card in it, even if you deleted those files or those pictures off of the card, you can put it into a reader and run a program and recover all the photos that were on there. When you delete something, you didn't actually delete it. You just marked the space to be overwritten in the future. And so your data can often be retrieved. And so at a fundamental level, deleting stuff doesn't really do anything. Then when you get to big tech, just because you mark it for deletion doesn't mean that it's actually deleted off of a database. They're just not showing it to you anymore. Now we have more protections around consumer behavior and things like that, GDPR stuff, all that wonderful nonsense. But like, for the longest time, you marked it for deletion. It still wasn't deleted. And now with the AI piece, they're already telling you point blank, we're storing all this information. Not only are we using it for training data for future stuff, but we're also storing it in case we get a request from a government organization that needs our cooperation. We're going to cooperate fully and we have everything. And so right off the rip, you have all these layers where just every single day you're giving up little tiny bits of your privacy. But with LLMs, you're bearing your soul. All your questions are in this one unified point. And so, yeah, you have to take any steps possible that to make sure these things aren't going to be used against you long term. And so the steps that Danny just laid out about changing the settings is a good first step. Even with all of that, you're trusting these organizations to follow through. You're still handing off all your medical queries, all your life queries, all your thoughts, feelings, hopes, desires for the future to this unnamed entity. And so having these things local and in your control can be a big win long term. So I'm excited to see how they went about it. Yeah.
100%. And he didn't just build something that's, barely put together. He put some significant effort into it. He built a custom UI, which I think is incredible by itself. I even saw he was showing like, oh, this thing toggles. Like I'm still a sucker for things like that, but you know what my kryptonite is? A really good use and well-placed hover effect. Like that to me is like Harry Potter levels of magic. That like just it blows my mind when I see it done really well. Like you're not using over the top animations here. You're not going there. It's like really well placed magic that does the job well, and it just enhances the experience. And sometimes subtleness is way better than something that's over the top because it's the right amount that enhances it the right way. And I feel like that delicate balancing is kind of where things need to be sometimes. And so he made a custom UI. He built an integrated search. He has memory. He even has a RAG system that he's built. He's built something that's called, quote unquote, the council, which is like a distributed agent system. It's not something that's basic. He's put some like crazy effort into this to make sure that it's at a performant level and that it's doing everything. And the best part is it's all local. Now, you see him, at least in this one video, just like geeking out where, and this is the thing that gets me, right? Like this is what got me hooked in the beginning. And it was just the pure joy and happiness of discovering something, And I remember that feeling in the beginning. I still get it on certain things. And you just get so geeked out and excited over seeing something come to life. And for a lot of us, man, we forget that. And it was just really, really fun and enjoyable to see that. And then, of course, to see how he approached some of the problems that he had. He had some significant ones, but
and the one thing is they're not an engineer, right? This is something they've been picking up recently. And so I think this is also kind of the power of the internet and the power of AI to help individuals build the things they want to build, right? Like given enough time and access to the internet, this person's going to build whatever the heck they want to build. I did read some comments that they like dropped out of school. Maybe they were doing engineering beforehand and then did a whole YouTube journey. But still, I think this is the greatest time it's ever been for someone that wants to build, because you can have a thought partner, you can have this individual that can like help you learn these things, and they're running with it. And so I think we have to also always have like these dreams of like what our life would look like if we were independently wealthy and just wanted to tinker all day. Like I see PewDiePie as like the new age version of like the guy that has the 6-car garage and is like tinkering with their woodworking projects, right? Except it's not that. It's just he wants to build like local compute, that's their Porsche, vintage Porsche that they're fixing up,
He's so rich, he's just doing side quests at this point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Change careers.
Yeah, exactly.
But it goes to one thing that I've often said. I've said this for years, probably a decade. There are literally people with half of your talent or a quarter of your talent that are making serious waves with the things that they're doing simply because They're vocalizing it, they're showcasing it, they're talking about it, and they're just putting it out there. And you're over here taking your time and letting all these people lap you simply because you're just not showcasing it, highlighting it, talking about it, or really just putting in the effort that you need to be putting in. And people with a fraction of your talent are taking the spot. Now, of course, people would immediately say, well, PewDiePie has this platform. You think he's the only person that is potentially lapping somebody, even though they don't have the necessarily talent? They're not the best software developer in the world. They can't think through problems in the most proficient way. You think he's the only one? There's so many. You know how many? I forget who said this, and I can't remember where I heard. I don't even remember the details, but I remember someone was discussing something, how he always talked about how his manager was didn't know what he was doing, terrible at it, horrible leader, that kind of thing. And his wife would always tell him, yeah, he's the one signing your paycheck, so why are you talking bad about him? And so it's like you're letting people that can't do the job as well as you succeed you. And it could be for a variety of reasonings, but the reality is you need to really get out there, because I mean, this whole journey for him started in 7 months with the goal of, I just want to keep my privacy. Now, he definitely spent more money than the average person doing it, don't get me wrong, and we'll get into that in a second, but it's interesting just to see that growth. Yeah,
there's a big lesson here. I was helping an individual recently who's going through the application process, trying to get a new job. And they're getting pretty deep in interviews, but they're losing out to other candidates. And the feedback they're getting is that the other candidates just have more of a track record. And we're diving into what they've done. It's like, no, you have all these pieces. You just haven't communicated it in a way that anyone actually knows. And so for a lot of folks that I work with, it's they have all these things that they just didn't put out there. There's no public proof. And so if you're at a company right now and you're doing all these wonderful things, there's no way for somebody else to know. And when it comes time for you to need a new opportunity, they're not going to see that proven record of what you have done. And so what I really like, what I've seen about from PewDiePie looking through the videos is like, all right, here's me learning X. Here's what I learned from that to build this and then to build this. So it's a really good reminder that your content doesn't have to be this super high-end polished thing. It can be what you're learning, what you're working on, what you're tinkering on. So that when someone needs to like look at your record, they can be like, oh, I can see your whole journey through this space. I can see all the things that you've worked on. And if you just take some time as you're going through your day-to-day to contextualize, write a blog post, like get those small wins out, it makes it so that when someone's looking at your body of work, they understand. They don't have to guess, oh, you do that because I can see that you've done it, right? And you have to be visible, especially in this market. People don't want to have to guess. They don't want to take a risk. They want to see that you have a proven record of doing something. And if all of that is private commits in a Git repo, you're screwed. And so anything you can do to start taking those steps to making your stuff more visible, to making your stuff more public, to sharing on social, to sharing on LinkedIn, just to get in the habit of it, can lead to huge wins and really be the saving point should you need to go back on the job search.
100%. No. So let's talk about some of the problems that he ran into, because they were interesting to me. One problem that he ran into was cost to keep his data private. It ended up costing him around $20,000 to do everything. This was pretty incredible and interesting to me. Like 20 grand to keep everything private is just, I don't know. It made me realize that to get true privacy and ownership of your data, it will cost you significantly more than what most people probably think it will end up costing to be free from it, to not be Googled, or to not have Google take all your info and Facebook take all your info, etc. Like, it would take a considerable sum of money in order to achieve that. But what do you get by that as well? You know, for him, it was building all these servers and GPUs at home. It was running the program locally. It was to have everything just decoupled and disconnected from anything where the information can go somewhere else, just to have his chats and info private and not being trained.
Do you know
it's
what
like a
hardware he
something pretty
went
interesting to
with?
think about.
That's a pretty huge cost. I'm curious if you know the models or the hardware he
I
was
do
using.
know that he discussed having 10 GPUs for everything, and I do know
wow.
that there's like a server situation where he wanted to create his own server, but that is the extent of the actual hardware that I know he implemented.
I saw something on Twitter that he got the unlocked 5090s from China. So I think that's pretty interesting. He's running a bunch of like the unlocked 5090s in a cluster.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is when he was coding this, he was obviously going way over his usage limits of coding, and so those costs were also incurred. To what extent, I don't necessarily know, but 20 grand was pretty considerable.
Because it's
know he
such a
spent-
weird
oh.
space, yeah.
It was 245B models, only to realize you don't need beasts of computers. That was one point that I jotted down. And like a small 2B model would become pretty great, because the whole idea wasn't necessarily just to create a chat OS, but it's his own LLMs. And so utilizing that's what I was.
Yeah, the funny thing is, like, I'm super deep in this right now because we're building out the hardware, like for we have an AI fellowship at Resilient Coders that we're running right now. And so we have to make grants to get the ability to buy things for that cohort. And so I've been price matching GPUs to what models they can run, what's the cost, how many tokens are they running. And so it's that's what makes it kind of curious, because we're looking at a really weird spot right now with compute where the cards that have the most VRAM, so that you can actually put the models on, right, and have access to it. We have some of the bigger consumer model cards, of course, that could run them at more tokens per second, but they don't have enough RAM to put the model into it, right? So you have to find this sweet spot where you have enough addressable VRAM so that you can put the model on it. But if it's not an optimized GPU, then it runs slower. So we have some of these newer GPUs that are coming out, even stuff like the Nvidia DGX Spark, where you have like 128 gigabytes of addressable VRAM, or even like the Apple Silicon, where you have a total 128 addressable like space, but the tokens per second on those are lower. And then you start getting into like the actual cards that have more VRAM, like the Blackwell edition cards. And that's where you start seeing like 96 gigabytes but higher tokens per second. So there's like, you can either like just skirt by with a lot of the bigger like bigger models. Like you can just get by with like the new open source GPT models. You can just get by with like the Llama and the DeepSeeks and stuff like that. But as soon as you want to go to anything bigger, you got to like jump up to these like super, super expensive cards, which is interesting. And I wonder if they were training their own thing. Maybe that's why they bought so many. Maybe they were like trying to train. Yeah. And so like if you want to do training, the thing I just bought recently is like an H100 box, right? Because I was doing Kaparthi's NanoChat and training on 8 H100s to train NanoChat, and that worked phenomenally well. It was like $100 all said and done, but all of that went onto the cloud. And so I could only imagine if PewDiePie is trying to like do their own training, how do you do that locally? And then that's where probably the cost kind of skyrockets, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to make one of your own is a great way to start appreciating how much money these companies are pouring on AI to like make it the thing that it is. You know, I saw very recently where a lot of people are talking about the AI bubble. I don't necessarily know if we are in one or not. I'm not an economist, but what I will say that the key distinction for me between now and like the .com bubble is the actual areas of revenue that are being generated. It kind of de-risks it a little bit more to me. But again, I don't know. But what I will say is when your goal, because I saw a tweet the other day that said, if AI was profitable, why are they pouring so much money into it? And my idea and my mindset is, if your goal is being the number one player all over the globe, it costs money, AI or not, for expansion. That's why soft drink companies spend so much money on marketing and shelf space and this and that in grocery stores around the world. If your goal is just to be a big player in America and nowhere else, you open that door to competitors opening in other places. That's why, like, for example, when Uber didn't make it into certain markets, it cost so much money for them to finally break in and start getting market share because someone beat them in the first to market scenario for it. So that's one key reason why, like, money is just being set on fire in some of this, because when you're just trying to grow at such a rapid pace to kind of not leave room for a competitor, it's very, very expensive. I believe I saw something where OpenAI said they don't see them being profitable until 2028, if I remember correctly, and which is like 3 years from the time of recording this, which is wild, right? And I'm eager to see like what we end up saying in 2028 whenever that does happen.
Yeah, it's just wild the numbers are all talking about. Like, they're like $1 trillion private company, and they're like, yeah, we'll worry about profitability later on. Like, what is going on? But I get it. They're racing for AGI, right? The first one of these like foundational companies to hit AGI wins, right? And so it makes sense. It was also something I was reading about, like the major motivation behind all the big CEOs of these companies, and some of them are like very apparent. So think of like Elon wanting to get to Mars. And so they need AGI. They need all this machine learning tech to get to Mars. And so like, what do we think like the real motives are behind a lot of these other orgs? And so I think it's fun to think about. I think the interesting bit about the models as they stand now is that they're finally good enough to use locally. I use quite a bit of local models, and they're never going to be as good. They're not as good as GPT or whatever or Claude, especially when it comes to like code gen. But it's enough to like most of my basic queries, if I wanted to, could be done locally outside of the code gen stuff. Another year, I think we'll be at a place to where hopefully the Apple Silicon keeps up, and you have a large amount of addressable VRAM. It'll only get better, so your tokens per second will go up. And so I could see myself in a world within the next year when the next studio comes out, like the Apple Studio, having enough compute to run some of these bigger things locally that even would probably do somewhat good at CodeGen. So I think long term, the interesting thing here is, how do a lot of these companies recoup cost if it does go local? And what do those features look like? What does that access look like? Because I find most basic queries I can get done locally. And so I'm curious what their money model looks like long term.
Yeah, I don't even know. Because even in, for those that don't know, or maybe not aware, I and two other authors wrote The Developer's Guide to AI, which is a book that we're really proud of. And we actually lead with you having a local model. And the whole idea there was, number one, to get people used to this idea, but to also have a little bit more control over what's happening, as opposed to just being told this is the way to use an API, which we think is like really valuable long term. But I'll be honest with you, the thing that I'm super excited about going forward, and I think people already see that there's some models that are better at certain tasks over others. I've been a big believer of this for years. I think now it's become a little bit more evident than ever before. I'm excited about a couple things, but one thing in particular, we discussed this on the AI cheat sheet episode that we did, and I'm really into the idea in space of SLMs, where you have small language models that do specific tasks really, really well. And that's all their training data is on, that small, very specific thing. And I just feel like that's going to be, in several years from now, a lot more prevalent than other areas. But if you're familiar with a large language model, a lot of these concepts will transfer over. You just think of it on a more almost like microservice level kind of scale, where for those that aren't familiar with microservices, the entire idea is it does one task and it does it really well and it does it really fast because that's all it's focused on. SLM would be somewhat similar in this respect. It focuses on one set of tasks, does it really well, very performant. And I kind of see that going to other levels because you can have an SLM on like a tool the size of like, I don't know, the computer for a washing machine or a lawnmower. Like you're starting to see more and more robotic lawnmowers be a thing now.
Yeah.
Like I'm starting to see more of those adverts pop up. This would be like a great performant way for it to do that, to where it's like you have an SLM to see, oh, this part of the grass is actually uneven. I should probably go over this even though it isn't in my set instructions. So that way it is a full job. And those determinations, that's SLM would make a better result overall because it's able to determine that in real time versus being explicitly told to go back over it.
Yeah. I think those little niche kind of pop-up pieces are going to be kind of long-term, a good piece there. PewDiePie and their journey, right? I think like what can we take from their hacking, right? They've started building out on Linux. Well, first they started building their own PCs, they started building out on Linux, started doing their own little Raspberry Pi, and now they're doing kind of the LLM piece as well. I think when I think about looking at what they're doing and how our listeners could do something similar is like that curiosity piece, because there's enough out there to get you started on anything that you have an interest in, right? If you want to start having a deeper understanding of the things that you're doing, installing Linux is a fun way to kind of understand more like the lower level of what's happening day to day on all the tools that you use, right? And so I love that that's where their journey kind of started, is like getting Linux going. Once you do that, you're installing packages, you're understanding, oh, this is like free as in freedom and also as in beer, and you have control again, leading them down to that privacy journey. And so for anybody that's listening, if you want a really good weekend tinker, is take that old computer you have growing dust in the closet and get Linux installed on it. There's so many guides that you can follow online. You'll walk away with a deeper appreciation for like how your hardware works. You'll have some fun following some scripts. You'll maybe learn about the terminal if you haven't played with that too much, if you're newer to development. And it's a really good starting point. And then from there, make it do whatever the heck you want it to do. And then once you can make that do it, well, then you can make other computers do stuff, and then you can be writing code. And so I think it's cool to see that journey kick off. And if you're all listening and want to be able to do it, I think that's a good place to start too.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think it really just comes down to one thing that we've been saying for the longest, and that is when it comes to just building something, you don't need to necessarily think that you're going to cure cancer with code. Just build something. You don't have to be the first to do it. Just do your version of the thing. Try to find new angles. You'll find some of the best products that you use probably on a regular basis. It wasn't the first iteration or the first to market. It was just their version that you ended up liking the most. There's so many game consoles out there. There's Xbox, there's PlayStation, there's Nintendo. But you have the versions that you like the most. You don't find a ton of people owning every single console. Maybe they buy one and they play the titles on that one, their friends, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's the one that resonated with you. You don't have to be so far on the deep end on this stuff. So just build something. It's better than not building anything or being paralyzed by the idea that, oh, I don't know how to do this thing. It's like, just do it. I was asked a question the other day and they said, oh, I really suck at DSA. And I was like, oh, okay, like how many problems have you worked on like the last 90 days? They're like, oh, none really. And I was like, well, yeah, you probably would suck at that point, right? It's impossible to get better at something or progress towards something unless you actively do it. Because then, to be honest, everyone sucks at something in the beginning. The only way that you become better at it is through iteration and time. Mm-hmm. And so at least if you do something, audit it. What went right? What went wrong? You always see me say audit things. Matter of fact, I posed a question the other day to my Discord. And the question was, for those of y'all that have been talking in here that are saying it is your absolute priority, like your priority to get a new job, who is it? And people started chiming in, like, it's my number one priority in life right now. Like, it's everything I'm focused on. And I said, perfect, you fell into my trap. I am now going to be asking you questions publicly. In the last 90 days, how many conversations have you gotten into? And some were like 3. I was like, oh, okay. Some were like 10. I was like, oh, okay. I said, here's my question. If I said, I need you to get 10 conversations in 7 days, and if you do so, I'll give you $20,000, would you be able to get the 20 grand? Everyone said yes. I said, so you're willing to do it for 20 grand, but you're not willing to do it for 100 grand in the job or 80 grand in the job.
One second.
This man, oh my goodness. Oh my God. I was like, where is he going with this? Oh, wow. Okay. For those that are listening audio wise, he went and grabbed a microphone from somewhere and came back on screen and just dropped it to do the mic drop expression.
That's such the best piece of advice. I because I talk a lot about this too. It's like there's a lot of things that you're like. There's a lot of things I'm willing to do for 100 grand. There's a lot of things I'm really do to like put food on the table for my family. And you mean to tell me I can do these things that we talk about on this podcast, and at the end someone gives me $100,000 because that's the level of salary most folks get when they make it. Well, not most, but a lot of folks can get into in this career. And so I love the way you frame that because it really does really break through that wall of helping folks realize like, yeah, I do a lot for 20 grand. Wait a minute. Why am I not doing it for 100 grand? Right. And so, yeah, that's such a beautiful way to phrase it and let the brain get to that point where you realize it. And yes, each one of those conversations is bringing you closer to literally hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars across your career. What would you do for millions of dollars if you knew it was guaranteed? And that's what it is. You do all these things. You do the pieces that we ask you to do, that we talk about on this podcast, and you do them consistently. You do them in public. Good things come to you. Good things happen. You unlock this career. You unlock this life that may not have been aligned for you. But if you do it, and there's a lot of things I'm willing to do to get there. So I love that phrasing.
Oh, you know, like there's a whole tangent here, but like I was talking to somebody who is located in another country, and they're like, oh, there's no jobs located in my country, so I'm trying to get jobs in the West. And I was like, oh, have you talked to every single CEO of companies in your country? They're like, no. I was like, have you talked to 10% of them? No. 5%? No. How do you know? Like, there's nothing. It's the same thing here where people are like, oh, you know, no one hires juniors. And I totally get that rhetoric because when you search for junior roles specifically, like, you're not finding it. But you know what's funny is in my Discord, I sometimes share job roles that I come across, especially at the junior level, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, how did you find this? Like, I'm not even finding the verbiage on LinkedIn for this. Like, I'm typing in the exact title, everything, nothing's popping up. And I said, do you not listen to the podcast? Do you not listen to our videos? Because how many times have we said only about 30 to 40% of jobs really make it to job boards? And then the rest are either people on the teams know about it, they don't share it, or it goes on the company career pages. It never goes on Indeed or LinkedIn or Dice. That's number one. Number two, I find it by going to the company career pages. And like, how do I even know to look for this company? I was like, you should be Googling all kinds of stuff to see what pops up and going to those career pages. You should see who you're interacting with and seeing what companies they work at and then going to those career pages. And you find all these roles that don't even exist. And like, I shared a role the other day where it was a junior role, starting salaries at 130, right? No years of experience required. It even said in the, we don't expect you to have any years of experience, right? It's not on LinkedIn. It's not on Dice, because why would they pay to post that? And so where is it instead? It was on their, it was hidden on their company career page. And I shared it, and all the juniors like, oh my God, this is a phenomenal. I'm like, I see these all the time through that. Yep. But if you were just to go off of the Indeeds and the Dice, you would definitely feel like no one is hiring a junior. But it's like, how many conversations or how many places are you going out of your way in order to find this stuff?
Yeah. I think we need to do a whole episode on first principles thinking. I think it's something that you're really good at doing, is like, here's the assumption, and then peeling back all the layers to see if it's actually true or not. And something that for folks also wouldn't know this, but Danny does a lot of research for each and every single episode. And one of the things that we'll specifically push episodes for, like to a later date, is here's the data I see right now, but can I actually find more data to support that point? Or is this like just surface level? Like how can I go deeper to understand what's really happening here before we talk about it? And I think a lot of folks can be served really well, especially right now when it comes to job searching, is there are all these assumptions about the market. There are all these assumptions about what's going to work or not work. And once you actually start peeling back the layers, you realize, oh, no, that's just something you maybe thought about because you spend too much time on Reddit or too much time on Twitter. But if you haven't actually talked to these individuals, if you actually haven't gotten yourself into these conversations, you're letting some other anonymous anime profile character person dictate the next 5 years of your life. Like, what is going on? You know?
Number one, completely agree. There's actually an episode that we want to record right now, and I'm actually refusing because I said I need all of the data, because there's a situation that, in my opinion, and we're not going to change it, unfortunately, but there is a situation with social media where being the first to report something is more important than being accurate. And the problem is it just leads so many people in the wrong path. And I personally hate it. I don't want to like support that to being, just salacious headlines. It's the same reason why when we bring on guest co-host here, the first thing that I tell them is we're not here to just get a salacious headline. We're here to get the most accurate information that we can to help people in the most meaningful way possible. Because this is not just for, again, the junior dev, or it's not just for the dev that has 30 years of experience and they're trying to figure out how to navigate this new market. It's for anyone that's in the field of tech. You could be a PM. I know we have PMs that listen to this. I've literally been tagged by them. I know we have designers that listen to this. I know we have software developers that listen to this, but I know we have engineering managers that listen to this. And I know for a fact, by the way, that we have architects that listen to this with 20 years of experience. I got tagged by someone the other day who has we had a question submitted by somebody with 20 plus years of experience. We've had book authors that listen to this podcast. We have career coaches that listen to this podcast. My hope is that we honor everyone's time by always being accurate in what it is that we share. And sometimes that takes a little bit more effort. So you may sometimes see us, quote unquote, slow to report on the current event. But if we report on it, at least it's been with the best of our knowledge and abilities at that time. Things may change, but we really put in the effort to make sure that we're accurate instead of hot topic of the day. All right, y'all. It's time for everyone's favorite part of the podcast, including mine. It is the Ask Danny and Leon a Question.
All right, we have a question here. How do I, as an introvert, learn to networking? What do I do? When it comes to networking, there's typically two pieces that I think about. One is the actual, like, how do you do it? And the other part is the psychology behind getting someone to where they feel like they can. And for some folks, the fear of networking is so overwhelming that no matter what process I give you, we're not going to get there. And whenever you feel like there's something that you want to do, but you can't, that's typically when you need help. For some folks, they're going to need the intervention of like doctors that can help them figure out how to get to the point to where they can network. Or a lot of folks just need a community of folks where they can practice and get comfortable and get the strategies that are going to work for them. So my first thing is, like, if you're trying to do something you can't, you need help. Whether that's communities or more, like that's something you have to figure out on that journey. And so once you figure out the fear piece or the anxiety piece, and that's no longer the key issue, then this is the fundamental steps of like, how do you network? And so for a lot of folks to where the fear isn't debilitating, small practice wins, whether you're doing something like Banky Brunch or commit your talk that Danny mentioned earlier today to get over that initial hump of talking, and the strategy around it is a good first step. Smaller wins, right? So don't feel like you have to go to the 3,000 person meetup to start your networking journey. You can do it online. You can do it in a space to where if you get overwhelmed, you click a button and you're done, right? Or you can start with, I like the buddy system. So if you're going to like an in-person thing, you can bring a buddy to kind of get over the hump. So there's a lot of things you can do to like get through that first piece. The how do you network is start small, start intentional, and practice the actual act of networking, which doesn't have to be you showing up somewhere. It can be you commenting on Twitter. It can be you engaging with others. There's so many facets of networking that don't have to be you human to human standing in a room, although I think that has a lot of value. But you can practice all these little things over time. So you build your confidence up to being in a room with others and communicating and building those types of relationships. So the first thing I think is like address why. And then the second piece is like the strategy. Maybe we can go deeper into like each of those facets. But what are some of the things you're thinking about, Danny, for that question?
You know, maybe I'd ask you just elaborate a little bit on, I guess, the identification of the why. Because I feel like there's so much that I can say on this, but I'd really love to make that point full on yours.
Yeah. So the why of networking.
Yeah, like they know it's a thing that they need to do, but why do they need to do it? Especially if they are introverted, especially at like a deeper level.
We know that only 70% of jobs are not being listed. So only about 30% of the things that are open opportunities are things that you'll see on job boards. And so if you're trying to get an opportunity, your chances go up dramatically if you've invested time in building a network of folks that want to see you succeed. The other thing is right now in this market, I'm literally seeing somebody get a job pretty much every other day. Almost universally, every single one of them has been through some referral, some sort of connection they had at the company. And for a lot of folks, they see that as kind of like unfair. But it's just how it works, specifically right now, because people don't want to take risks on talent and they kind of also want to move fast. And so the easiest way to do that is to know who do you know, or who do you know, who do they know, so that you avoid some of the heartache of going through the interview process with a lot of candidates that just aren't the right fit. And so if you are someone who wants a job, the best thing you can do to just increase the number of opportunities that are available to you is to build out a network of individuals so that when things pop up with their org, they become a good source of a good referral. Then the other thing is that for a lot of folks, specifically if networking is hard for you, you might not communicate well during an interview. And that's just a downstream effect where like you're in an interview and since you might not feel as comfortable communicating with folks during that interview, it might not go as well for you as it might go for other candidates. However, if you have been networking and you have a champion, that champion can go to bat for you and say, hey, this person is a phenomenal engineer. They might not be super comfortable in the behavioral aspects of an interview, but I can vouch for this person as an engineer. And so I've had a lot of candidates that for them, they have a level of social anxiety, or they have a level of something where the behavioral and the phone screens and things like that are difficult for them. But since they have a champion in their corner, they still make it through and get to the point to where their code can show out and they can get an opportunity. And so the why for me is like, one is just unlocking this treasure trove of opportunity that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. And then two, developing someone that's going to be willing to be in your corner to help you get through those initial humps that you might not have been successful through without. And so if you commit to building a network, people can see your value. They can get to know you. And it's easier for those two circumstances to win out over time. There are a lot of other smaller benefits too, but I think those are two of the biggest ones I see that help the most people in our communities.
Leon, you ever got punched in the face?
Yes. My rap cover is the day before class pictures, I got into a fist fight. And so I have a class picture, which is a bright yellow FUBU shirt and a big old black and blue mark on my chin. My mama was pissed, but that's going to be my rap cover one day.
So for those of y'all that may not necessarily know, for quite a few years, I have done Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, and especially at Muay Thai, I'd never fought professionally, but definitely at the amateur level, still undefeated as far as like smokers go for Muay Thai striking and things like that. And there's a thing that I call speed to getting punched in the face. And the faster you finally get hit, it's the realization that you are not made of glass becomes pretty empowering for a lot of people. But one thing that you notice with a lot of beginners is as they're defending and they keep their hands up and a punch comes, they often will blink because they're instinctually, they're afraid of like, oh, I'm going to get hit, this and that, la, la, la. And so one of the drills that I often do is for maybe a 5-minute round or 2 5-minute rounds, you are literally, your only task is to defend. That is it. You're not striking or anything. And something happens within usually the first round, but some people's second round, they stop blinking because they realize, wow, every time I blink, I'm getting hit. And I should be able to see what's coming at me so I can defend it. This is kind of what the issue is with the fear. You're so afraid of getting hit that you don't necessarily know how to put yourself in a situation where you're in an advantage position. And this is the same thing that I see with a lot of people that are afraid of networking or speaking to people. It's more about in their mind what the fear of the thing is. It's the fear of how are they going to perceive me? It's the fear of if I say something, are they going to hate me? Are they going to think less of me? Are they going to think I'm a fool? This and that, la da 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 da. And so my belief has always been controlled exposure can be built up upon. And so what if you just walked up to somebody anywhere, it doesn't have to even be tech related, and just had a 2-sentence conversation, something just very low effort, and you can walk away afterwards feeling like, I'm never going to see that person again. That was done. I feel good. Moving on. Maybe it's a cashier at the local grocery store. Hey, how's your day going? Right? Something pleasant, nice. Doesn't have to be something weird. And then maybe work in something like, hey, how's your day going? It's probably been hard, right? It's like almost near the holidays, a lot going on. They're like, yeah, it's been a pretty rough day. Maybe like you could say something like, well, are you looking forward to something? Like, do you have a lunch break coming up or something that like you're looking forward to? Like, oh yeah, I got a great sandwich. That's a great conversation. Yep. And you controlled it because now you're gone and you're on about your day. But you know what? You may have made their day better because they're like, wow, somebody actually checked in on me. That's pretty cool. Right? There's like no negative to that. Or they may be having a bad day. They're like, yeah. Like there were definitely days when I was a cashier at the gas station where I'm like, yeah, just that's it. Let's move on. Let's get it going. And if the store is busy as heck, like that's not the time to have that conversation, right? Like if they're busy, they got a crazy line, don't ask them about their day. But if the store is a little slow, that could be an easy way to kind of knock that out, right? And it's controlled exposure. The other thing is virtual meetups. Control your interaction and exposure, right? I'd be going in there and just chatting a little bit in real time to kind of test some things out. And then the best part about that is once it becomes too much, leave. Or if the meeting's still going on, come back when you feel comfortable again and get a little bit more and just keep building upon that. Discord is a great way to do that. Where during the pandemic, everybody and their mother, brother, sister, and cousin decided to make a Discord. Find the ones that you feel like you vibe with and just go talk in there. And I think if I'm being honest, the real issue is just the word networking. This adds so much more fear to it. What if instead of networking, we said, you talk to Leon about Pokemon for 5 minutes? I bet you're not going to be nervous about that. Why would you be? It's Pokemon. Speaking of Pokemon, for Halloween, I saw at the store, they were selling like Pokemon card packs that were like 3-packs to give away as Halloween treats. I almost bought it, but I was like, if I buy as many as I have to, my wife will kill me. So like, that's definitely not happening. But when I saw it, there was like a little Leon on my shoulder, like, do it, buy it, give it to me. We
gave away Pokemon cards this year and last year. Yeah.
Oh,
I saw your post of being that house.
I'm that house.
We are also that house.
Oh.
We did Hot Wheels.
Mm-hmm.
These like Barbie blind boxes, and then Pokemon cards in front of and then you had candy. So you had full-size candy bars. And so you could pick out of those 3 what you wanted or the candy. We had full-size candy bars and Kinder eggs. Yeah.
It's funny, my wife never got it. And I'm very big on Halloween. I don't really care about the holiday, but when I was growing up, my area definitely didn't have candy that you'd get. And so you'd ride a bus for 45 minutes to the nice area. And that's where we trick-or-treated to get candy. And I always remembered that a lot of people that were going to those areas to trick-or-treat were not necessarily people that had money. And so for me, now that I'm in an area where people travel for that, I go all out. And my wife really didn't get it for a little bit because, and I get it, like if you don't grow up in like maybe a metropolitan city at that level, like maybe it's not as in your face or obvious. But last year I went all out. I go all out. I have like Japanese candy, Chinese candy, Korean candy. Then I have American staples. It's the whole thing. And my rule is grab as much as you want and whatever you want. I don't care if somebody quote unquote abuses it. They're supposed to. It's Halloween. Let them go nuts. This is core memory situation, right?
Yeah.
And
it's the highest smiles per minute you'll get. Activity.
What did it cost you? A couple bucks? Like, I definitely spend more than probably most people should, but I feel like it's so worth it. But my wife didn't really get it until this year. We had people driving around. They're like, we came here last year and we loved it so much that we didn't remember where you lived. And so we were actually driving around looking for your house, hoping that you were doing it again. I'm like, I'll be here every year. And now my wife is like, we're strategizing next year. We're getting a whole thing. And now, because, she loves certain holidays like Christmas. Like, Christmas stuff is already starting to go up. Okay. Yeah. November 1st, it came out. But you just see them geek out and get so excited. By the way, as a tangent, do you see how we just networked if we didn't know each other? Like, this was such an easy topic.
Mm-hmm. That's why we did it.
Yeah.
Big brain. Yeah.
But you just need to have conversations with people and just treat them like humans. Like, stop thinking about how you're going to present this thing and this and that, and just start talking. And then audit the talk afterwards. What went right? What went wrong? This is the thing that I think most people mess up on. They do not audit actions. What did you do that actually resulted in something positive, something negative, and something in the middle? And if it's something that's in the middle, how do we get it more towards the positive? These are little tweaks. Like, for me, I still believe, by the way, that one of the biggest cheat codes in life when it comes to networking in general is a well-placed question. Yeah. If you ask a great question, the entire perspective of who you are changes. And I think some of the most valuable relationships that I've made in my life have come from really great questions. And so think through the question. If you're hearing something, ask about it. Like, one prime example, I was at an event last night and a friend of mine who is a consultant, like freelancing kind of person, was there with me, right? And we were just kind of hanging out talking, and I was talking to someone and they mentioned that they have a specific problem around like this obscure thing. They don't really have like a budget or much of anything. So I'm like, this is not really something like an organization could do, but like an individual could probably get something out of this. Yeah. And so I just introduced them. And how did I introduce it? I asked them one specific question. Hey, we're in the last quarter of 2025 right now, gearing up for quarter one. Like, what are you solving right now? What problem are you solving? Like, oh, well, this is what I'm working on. I'm like, yeah, that's what you're working on, but what problem are you solving? And they sat there and thought that, and they're like, oh, that's a really good question. And then they ended up sharing the problem. Like, so how are you solving this? And like, what? And then if you solve it now, what is that setting you up for quarter one? Oh, well, quarter one, we got to work on this. I was like, meet my friend.
Yeah.
They both love me now. It's like that simple. So like, ask really good questions and you'll be so surprised at some of the responses that you get out of it, because people just genuinely want to talk to people. And if you're a software developer, by nature, you're a problem solver. So start identifying what those problems are and deliver that solution. I know we went longer than usual, y'all, so apologize there. But it's been real, it's been fun, and we will see you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.